Okay, today is, I think, week 4 of addiction, which is about challenging addiction. 5, thank you, week 5, which is about challenging addiction. And Virginia, I think if you go to the participant, if you click on participant, then you find the icon for raising hand. Yeah, can you see it? Yeah, got it. Okay. And so I had decided to pick a whole brand new addiction to challenge for the workshop so that I could pick something that I don't have any clues about. All I had was the early sign of addictions where you feel impatient, frustrated, pissy, irritable, or like flat out angry. Any of those emotions you have as an adult are all clues to addiction. So I would get a little mad at my phone every time it would misspell or autocorrect anything I write. So I decided, you know what is that about? So the morning of, before we did, I think week 2 or week 2, I decided to go into it and realize that I want to be understood. I go, that's an interesting addiction. I wonder what that's about. And knowing that, I was already in a conflict about it, but I never made the connection between the intellectual and a process I was already engaged in. And so let me tell you what was going on with a friend of mine. So I'm going to use the doodle board. So in this doodle, in this situation, I was being misunderstood. Okay, whether or not it's real, that's not the point. I felt I was misunderstood. And what's interesting is that I then had, this following emotions. So I felt hurt. I felt let down. I felt betrayed. I felt wronged. I felt disappointed. I felt that she's my friend. How can she not know me well enough? Which is kind of like a betrayal. Oh yeah, that's a big word. I felt betrayed. So in this place, I've been trying to resolve my issue with her. I've been like, I need to resolve this issue. I need to figure this out. We can't move on. We can't move past until this is resolved. That was my emotional position. And it's been, I think, 2 months now. I'm holding on, like I'm holding on to this. This is going to get resolved and da 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 da. In the meantime, she's saying, "You're angry with me." And I would just freeze, like no words would come out. I would just physically, biologically freeze. Like, no, I'm working on it. No, I'm gonna resolve it. No, I'll work it out. No, I'll figure it out. But what I'm feeling are all of these. And then finally, I just wrote an email of prerequisite for what I need to happen between us so that I can talk about how I've been misunderstood, because I need her to get it. I need her to get that she has misunderstood me and here's what was really going on. That's what I'm going for. And in the email, she emailed me back and said, "You're angry in your email." And I go, "Really? Am I angry?" Finally, there's a little light coming on here. I go, "Am I angry?" I'll look at it. There was enough of a like, am I angry here? I don't feel it, but I'll look at it. There was a first sign of opening. And then fortunately for me, my friend was working on her emotions the whole time. She was processing her own emotions. And then she said another, and she processed the emotion. And she also said, I think you need to step away and work out why you're angry with me. And I'm like, I'm not angry, I'm hurt. And we got to resolve our issues. I'm saying, let's resolve our conflict. I feel very justified in this place. But then she processed her emotion and then she sent me an email. And for some reason, like a cloud lifted from me. And I read the email and I go, oh, she's saying you're not owning your emotion and you're projecting blame at me. And I go, I can take that. Like, right, I'm not owning my emotions. Okay, yeah, I can hear that now. Finally, I can receive like, oh, I'm just not owning my emotions. That kind of makes sense. Okay. And this was Friday night. I got up Saturday morning and I looked at all of these and I went, oh, I am in my addiction. All of these are my addictions talking. So this whole time, I'm acting from my addiction. It's my addiction that's making the demand. It's my addiction that's attacking her. And so I went, oh, no, these are just addictions. I'm just going to step back. There's nothing to negotiate. There's nothing to talk about. There's whether or not she's misunderstood me, whether or not I've been wronged. I am demanding, I am attacking her instead of owning my emotions. And nothing can happen until that happens. So I just step back and say, yeah, none of this needs to be negotiated or discussed or resolved or anything. I just need to stop. And so then yesterday morning, I started to go, okay, what do you do when you know it's an addiction? What's the next step? So then I'm gonna save this, clear this, start a new one. So then there are three things to do. One is feel what the addiction feel like emotionally. So for example, in my addiction for power, I can say, what's it feel like to have power? What's it feel like to feel special? And I can feel the emotion and I go, oh, it's such a nice feeling. I can feel how good power feels. What is wrong with this emotion? Like this, it's so good. But at least I'm owning it emotionally. I can feel it emotionally instead of acting from it because you can't see it. When you're acting from it, you can't see that that's what you're doing. You start to own the addiction emotionally and you start to feel like, oh yeah, I just want power right now. Oh, God, it's such a good feeling. I don't even see what's wrong with it, but I know what it feels like. That's one way. The other way is to go look for the justification for, well, we can say emotion, because you're not seeing that as an addiction at that time. What's my justification? For example, my addiction for justice. What's my justification? Well, for God's sake, you know, people are doing wrong, if people are doing violence, if you got rapists out there, you got to lock them up. You got to find them. You got to tell them how terrible they are. You got to make them pay. You got to save society from terrible people. You see how justified I feel? That's all that anger and all this logical understanding I have. So for some addictions, I can go into the justification emotionally real quick. And for some of them, I got to feel what it is like to not have it. That will trigger the emotion. And there's another point coming up, I've forgotten now. It'll come back. So for this addiction to being understood, I go, okay, what's it feel like emotionally? What's it feel like if I'm being understood? Nothing, no response. My body was just numb. Okay, what's my justification about it? Again, complete shutdown. I couldn't find anything. And I go, okay. I can never expect to be understood ever. I can never want it again. I just got to give it up. And I started to feel depression. I started to feel heavy and sad and depressed. And I went, bingo, got it. Because you want the emotion. So I found the emotion and I started to go into the sadness of how terrible it's going to feel that you have to give it up. Because in addictions, there is adult anger, there is depression, and grief at having to give it up. So when I realized yesterday morning, I'm just in an addiction, I'm acting in the addiction of wanting to be understood. Intellectually, I can't see my anger. Emotionally, I can't see my anger, but intellectually, I'm like, oh yeah, I am angry. I'm in the addiction. Of course I'm angry. That's all that's coming at my friend. Like, I don't need to question that. Like, that's taken for granted. There's anger here. I can't find it. I can't feel it, but I know it's there. So you just take it for granted. If there's an addiction, you have adult anger, and at some point, you're going to have to go through the depression and grief at having to give it up. This is, I see it pretty consistently. So then I start to go, okay, I need to find the justification. I don't know how, through the processes, I'm going, I need to find a justification and then I can slip through. I think I need to find a justification. So I'm going back and forth and praying and praying. I'm praying to God, God, what is my justification for this addiction? And I found one. So what I found, the justification was, if I have hardship or pain or suffering from being misunderstood, I am justified to seek retribution, validation, correct compensation. That's what I got. I believe there are more than one justification, but I found one. If I've had to suffer because of your misunderstanding me, well, now I'm owed. So I went into it. I went into the emotion because it's an adult anger. Usually it doesn't take too long. I went into the emotion, let it come up, and I think it only took me less than 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I went into the anger, got it out, and then there was blank, it was quiet. And then this wave of child rage came up. I got some kind of a terrible childhood memory. And as I allowed the memory, I just went into this immense child's rage. So usually you either drop into some kind of fear or childhood rage, topping the fear. There's always some kind of a childhood rage under the addiction, but now you're under the addiction, you're in the childhood hurt self. And the rage I felt, which took about like half an hour of feeling, was, at first there was no connection. I'm just raging. But as I kept raging and raging, the pain that came up was that if I knew I would be believed, so now the story has changed. I need to be understood so that I will be believed. If I knew I would have been believed, I would have said something sooner. I would have said anything about what was being going on, about the violence that I'm going through. So the child is in rage of nobody would believe me. Nobody will understand me. So I'm trapped in this pain. I'm trapped in the violence. I can't do anything. I can't say anything. So I dropped into that rage. It took about half an hour. But I was silently raging. I wasn't using my voice because I was at home and I have an addiction with my children that I don't want to inconvenience them. I'm going to work through that at some point. And then I started shaking in fear. And once I started shaking in fear, I relaxed. I was like, okay, good. Because the fear process can take as long as it does. I have no idea. 1 day, an hour, 2 days, a week, who knows? But that's good. I got into the fear. I went to bed. I got up this morning, processing fear. And now I'm beginning to drop into what the fear is about. Usually I don't put a demand, like you don't need to know what the emotion is about, you just feel it. And at some point you'll start to see what it's about. The fear is that if I'm not believed because I couldn't make myself understood, then people will project blame at me. They'll project I'm terrible, I can't defend myself. No one wants me to defend myself anyway. I'm not even given an opportunity. I'm helpless. I'm defenseless. Now I'm in terror, but I'm also beginning to grieve that I'm feeling helpless and defenseless. It's already taking me to some kind of grief. So that's where I'm at so far in processing this. And it's pretty quick because I guess I've done quite a few of this now. So you can just drop. But when you're still processing it, so for example, when I realize, oh no, for 2 months now, I'm the one in addiction. I'm the one attacking my friend every day. I'm the one that's been in the wrong. Ooh, this is where it gets dark. Because in the past, I would then go into self-attack. I feel terrible. I've been a terrible person. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed. And we tend to get lost here thinking we're processing our emotions when you're still in your addiction. You've not processed, you've not broken through. That's not working through addiction. That's you staying stuck in that cycle of hatred. And so I had to be very careful here. This is where I do a lot of prayers. God, please help me treat myself the way you're treating me. Try, at least try. Like, how are my guides treating me? How can I be gentle and loving here so that I can quickly slip through and not get stuck in wanting to really, really attack myself? That is not a very good place. So that's taken me years. Just that process right there has taken me years to work through, like how badly I treat myself, that this is self-punishment, this is not the right process, something is not right here. You got to process through all of those, and then you can quickly drop through into childhood causal emotions. But I believe I still need to keep watching the addiction. Am I engaging this addiction or being understood? And a few times now I caught myself and I'll stop mid-sentence going, that's the addiction, stop talking. I still need to watch out for the addictions. I still need to watch out that I don't come out of the fear, because then I need an addiction. Am I beginning to go into a different addiction? I need to still continue be watching all of that. So that's where I'm at so far about challenging addictions. Comments, questions? Lisa.
I'm really moved by what you've shared, Mila. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it's as soon as you just started describing the childhood rage, somehow I could just feel the grief under that created it maybe in you,
Okay.
and then it triggered off some grief in me.
Okay.
So it's just like, wow, yeah, of course, wanting to, like, nobody's going to believe me, wanting to be believed when you're being abused. Yeah, it brought a lot of compassion for you. And
Okay.
it's cool. Did you get a chance to sit with what your answer you got was when you tried to treat yourself as you're growing in awareness of this addiction you're doing that you've been in with your friend? Did you get a chance to really feel how your guides and God are feeling towards you right now in this process?
Yeah, I received some feelings, but I didn't let it sink in. It did enough to make me not go into a dark place going, no, this is how they're treating me. Because I keep asking, how do I treat myself? Because am I a good person? Because then I treat myself a certain way. But now I'm a bad person. So shouldn't I treat myself that way? And I'm going, oh, I need to educate the hurt child. There's some kind of education going, how are you supposed to treat yourself? because you grow up watching movies about the good guy and the bad guy. Then you're black and white. I'm going to treat you this way or that way. So there seems to be some kind of re-education going on there. But what I felt from my guides was to be proud that I'm choosing to stop. Be proud. This is a good day. This is a big day. And that to get into the hurt child's experience as quickly as possible, because once I felt how huge this grief is, I went, oh, I get the addiction. I get what created it. Okay. Because if I'm attacking the child.
And at that point, it seems that you've touched into to the grief, the huge grief that you've carried. Then immediately, it's so much easier not to go into any self-attack about this addiction, right? You've got the compassion that's just come in that moment for yourself. Oh my gosh, little one. Of course you were terrified and you didn't feel anybody would believe you. And of course you've got this addiction. I get it. We're going to work through it. I mean, like, it feels like that would, yeah.
That's huge.
It's so beautiful. You show so much courage in what you just go after things so strongly, Mila. It's like once you see something, you're like, okay, let's attack this. Let's get this out of me. It's really cool. It's very, I admire it.
It did take me 2 months to stay in the addiction. And I'm very lucky that my friend kept going, you're angry with me. And I'm going, what anger? I don't see it. She kept going, you're angry with me. And her processing her emotion really helped. Because there were 2 of us. I literally felt like something just got lifted off of me. And I'm going, wait a minute, what's going on here? But once the process is defined, then you're going, oh, this is an addiction? Oh, no, non-negotiable. There's nothing to talk about. Just walk away and start breaking through. So this is why I'm always defining process. And then once you define the process, for example, you may go, ooh, I go into a lot of self-judgment when I get an addiction exposed. Okay, take the time, sort it out. Because then the next time you go to addiction, 1 hour you're in. That's useful. Instead of fighting the judgment all the time. It's really helpful to create the processes along the way. And go ahead, Lisa.
No, go with your flow. I had a sort of separate question that I wanted to ask. Yeah.
So then I did ask, because yesterday when I talked to God about, it's like a check-in I like to do at the end of the day. I get in my bathtub and I go, okay, God, how was I in harmony with you today? I'll have like my left hand and I get an answer and then go, how was I not in harmony with you today? Like I'm checking. And at one point, God gave me the feeling that I still had this feeling that my friend deserved what happened in my anger. And I go, ooh, yes, I do feel that way. Okay, I still have that feeling. Okay. And then I asked God, so there's a compensation. Obviously, you feel the compensation for the pain you cause another, because no matter what happened to you as a child, the addiction is now a whole separate set of an attack on others that have nothing to do with the cause. You have to see it as 2 separate things. So then I say, if you can engage repentance. So then I ask, okay, God, help me feel the pain I caused my friend in that addiction. Because we have lots of addiction, we're doing lots of pain. You got to narrow it down. Sometimes I ask, please help me feel the pain I caused that person in that moment, just that moment.
Yeah.
Then you're like, whoa, that's enough pain. So I felt the pain that I caused her, because people may feel like, I was feeling, oh, I've been wronged. And so people may say, well, you caused me pain, but from God's perspective, no, it wasn't. So when I asked God to give me the pain, that I'm getting the pain that by God's laws was not cool. So I get the right emotion. And so, which is different than you feeling guilty or feeling bad or feeling blame. So I got the feeling, and once I felt the feeling, I go, oh yeah, no, she didn't deserve that. No. So that feeling left me. You don't have to fight with the feeling or attack yourself. You just gotta go, yeah, no, she didn't deserve to be made to feel that way. Okay, that was gone. And because she's been processing her emotion and therefore giving me the gift of forgiveness, the pain that came back to me wasn't very big.
Mm.
It was very gentle, it was very slight, and it just kind of left me quick, because I kind of say, I deserve this pain, I have earned it, I will accept this emotion. And please remove it from her. Please remove the damage I've done from her. Can you please compensate her for the harm I've done? These are the prayers you can say in this emotional place. Please help me correct this, because I can't correct this. These are prayers, prayers, prayers. So every step of the way, there are set of prayers for you to say. Get in the habit of asking certain questions, setting certain prayers. It really helps you every step of the process.
And I've found surprisingly that when you ask to feel what pain you've caused that other person, it can be quite quick, intense at times, but it sort of like
Yes.
hits you and then you grieve it. But then if you keep going with that grief, it usually takes you into the reasons why you chose to do that in the first place, which is the cause that God wants to help you remove anyway. That's from your childhood. Yeah. And so it's like the compensatory pain of the harm is less, it's quicker. I thought it was going to be so terrible and hard, but it's been quicker for me
It's
so
gutting.
far.
It's very gutting.
Yeah, it's gutting. Yeah.
From what I've learned, if you engage repentance, the law of compensation no longer acts on you.
Right. It's an intense, short process. It's like, let's take out the sword that's in your body right now, really quickly. And you're like, "Wah!" And then it comes out. And then you feel like, whoa, okay.
And it does take you to the cause if you can stay in it. So I don't know if I finished the repentant process yesterday. I just felt enough to go, whoa, yeah, no, she's not to blame. I felt it a little bit. And then I walked away from it. So I don't know if I finished it. I don't know if it was done, but just sharing. Okay. Other comments or questions? Alicia? Oh, you mute, Tony.
I think it's just wonderful, as Lisa said, that you're sharing in this way, that it was almost like it gives us permission, those of us who maybe haven't been very conscious of working through things. So, and for me, having all your questions and listening to the process that you're going through is really helpful, because I know for myself, I don't necessarily think, oh, I need to ask this or I need to ask that. It just somehow I get a little enmeshed in too many feelings, and you're pointing all of this out is creating more aha, and it's almost like giving me affirmation to see, well, for example, I had something this morning. It almost says, well, actually, you did process it, but you weren't necessarily asking those questions. But I can see now how it's useful to do that at the same time. And anyway, but mostly thank you that you're opening yourself up to us, and how beautiful that you had that experience with somebody who's aware.
Oh, what a gift.
Very different.
Holy smokes.
Different when it's not somebody who's aware, but thank you anyway.
It really does help to have, for me, I'm just fixated on process, mechanism of action for everything. I am fascinated with the process. And then when I'm listening to people going through their process, then it's like a map going, oh, you're in this part. You're stuck over here. You need to get through here. So it's just my passion. But I think it really helps for everyone to know kind of like a mind map of, you're in this place now, so now you need to break through. It's like, okay, I'm in the adult anger about the addiction, and it's been 5 hours, and I think I'm stuck. Like, if I feel through this, I'm probably gonna get into the fear, and I think it's the fear I don't want to go to, so I'm stuck here too long. Because the adult anger of addiction doesn't take too long. And also it kind of confirmed for me that you need to find your justification for the addictions. You need to find the justification, and you need to experience the justification, or you'll keep staying stuck. So my addiction for power, I still like the feeling. It's been years, and I'm slowly processing. And I think Now that I'm willing to feel helpless, defenseless, powerless, I'm willing to feel that maybe now it will soften, but I still like the feeling of power.
And,
okay.
and oh, sorry. And justification is almost like that's an addiction in itself. I have to justify myself.
Just
I felt that for myself this morning. It's like I felt I have to justify why I'm doing something, for example.
But you already have the justification. You already have it inside of you, and it's always anger. All addictions are based on anger. The justification is the anger, and you need to experience it emotionally to get rid of it. So now when I hear other people talking about the justification for justice, for anger, for like retribution, I go, yeah, no, that doesn't make sense anymore. Do you not see how that's actually adding to the anger and the dynamic and this and that? And so finally, like when I first felt my justification for justice, what I call justice, which is actually revenge, I felt like I'm trapped because I don't know how I'm going to get through. I can't argue with this feeling. It's so strong. It's locked in. And I just keep feeling it emotionally and hope it works. And it has. Like there's all this correction along the way. Like, okay, this feeling is wrong because I could hear the truth and the correction along the way. So it does work to just go into it emotionally. But understand if it's an addiction, there's anger. It's an adult anger, not a child's anger. That's just his own monster. And then when you get into the child's anger, that's more whole. There's something that's actual healing. You're actually processing something that the child can finally release. And then you're going to hit fear. You will hit fear. You got to be okay with feeling fear. If you don't want to feel fear, you're going to have to keep going back into addiction, because addictions are about avoiding the fear of remembering painful events. So if you keep getting blocked with your addiction, then you got to go, how comfortable am I in feeling fear? You got to go there. How comfortable am I in experiencing anger and rage? You got to go there. So now when I feel all these awful rage emotions, I may judge it a little bit, but I'll go through it. Virginia.
Everybody's kind of touched on what I was thinking, and I find myself sometimes I'm thinking that the other person is an addiction.
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling that the effects of that.
Yeah.
My emotions.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, is it my addiction? You know what
That's really good question.
And you know what I'm seeing? Like, oh, they're doing this, like, they're trying to control me or whatever. And I that really gets my back up.
Okay.
If I think anyone's trying to control me, because I don't want to, I have this fear of losing my free will.
Yes. But can you feel the justification come up there going, but they're the one wronging me. Hello, yeah. Don't I get to have, okay, right there you're going, oh, that's the justification right there. And so here's what happened. When you start to tell people about their addictions, you are going to lose all your friends. When I expose addiction, people get angry with me, and then I'm mad that they're angry with me. So I have a demand that people should not be angry with me when I say something to them. I'm out. Yes, them being angry with me is not cool and not loving and all of that, but I also have a demand at how they should be treating me. They're not allowed to be angry. That's my demand. You're not allowed to be mad at me and now be giving me, silent treatment, blah, 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 just because I exposed something. How could you do that to me? I have a different addiction being exposed in that instant.
So that is both of us being addiction.
Yes.
But I'm seeing theirs and not seeing mine.
Yes.
And so when I'm going into that justification, that's definitely the clue that I need to look at me.
Yeah. What's my addiction here?
Yeah. And just let go whatever's happening there with them for now and figure out where I'm at.
Yeah.
So that, okay.
I was trying to change my friend's behavior.
Right.
You didn't understand me. You've caused me pain. We need to resolve this conflict where you will finally understand. And I ain't going to quit till you get there. Whether or not that whole situation is real, my demand is an addiction. So
Yeah.
I had to pull back. And it doesn't make the other person right, but my attacking back is an addiction that only I can resolve. And at
Okay.
least one of us got to let it go.
And it's great that your friend has that awareness, but a lot of people don't.
I'm very grateful.
So I guess I just need to focus on resolving it for myself.
Yeah.
Because if they're not going to understand what I'm saying to them or what I'm talking about as far as their addiction, to just leave it alone, I don't know. I have a fear. I guess that's a fear there too,
Yeah,
maybe.
there you go. Start making a list.
Friends. Okay. Okay.
Start making a
Thank
list.
you. That helps clear
And
that up.
people are allowed to be angry. People are allowed to not ever understand me, misunderstand me, treat me badly after misunderstanding me. People are allowed to do that. And if I am in my own emotions about it, at least I can process and release the pain from me and maybe change the law of attraction or not suffer from it. I can process because I am in my own emotions. But if I'm in an addiction back, and wanting to stay in it. Now, remember, we already have addictions. All we can do now is identify. You don't have a choice of not having them. They're already there. It's like when your friends start to control you, Virginia, you went, wah! That's already there. You can't help but be exposed. What are you going to do? So you're going, oh, okay, I just got angry back. What's the addiction here? And the addiction is you're not allowed to be mad at me or whatever that is. That's the demand. Let me look at that as an addiction. And feel my own emotions.
Yeah, actually, those words that you just said, that people are allowed to try to control me.
Yeah, they want. If you're
It's
feeling your
not
emotions,
everybody's allowed to do that. Oh, I don't like to even hear that.
if you're in
So
your
that's
emotions,
obviously, yeah.
if you're in your emotions, they won't be able to control you. That's the beauty that you will discover. People that I don't even know I'm trying to control, as long as your emotion, I find I can't control them. And I find that I become aware, like, oh, I'm trying to control them because I'm not getting what I want. And of course I can't control them. They're their emotions, like, duh. So it's very, very loving. Now I've got a couple of raised hands, but I also need to, Jill.
I had a question in regards to the first step in to owning what it is or owning how it feels emotionally.
Yeah.
Once you start that process, do you stop projecting onto that person then?
Let me think. I feel that I'm gonna have to ask my targets here how it feels like for them. Casey and Grace are around me quite a bit. So I may have to ask what it's like for them. Do they feel it gets easier when I'm just owning my emotion? I'm like experimenting with them. I think when I start owning, it's not projected as much. Especially if I then choose to go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's not cool. Because you may want to feel something and then, like, for example, justification for rage. I may going, yeah, I feel justified and I'm going to keep going. Instead of owning it emotionally, I may feel like I still want it. So I don't know how that works at this point. Slowly softening. Casey?
I think though, from what I've experienced in the last little while, is even when you say I still want it, there's still an element of owning. So it's like it makes it lighter.
Okay. It's still there, but not as.
Yeah, it's not like, I don't know, nails out sort of thing. It's like, oh, okay, there's some ownership, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Jill, I'm still figuring that bit out. At some point when I release enough addictions, I can look back and go, okay, this is where you know something's changed. Or you may have to ask people around you to go, what's it like now? Am I more terrible?
Yeah, because I think that's a fear of mine, of being able to own the emotion of it. I'm like, well, okay, well, if I own it, if I actually accept this is what I want, that I like to call addiction like a drug, like that,
Oh, it is.
that feeling that I want. But is that still being, if I feel it and I own it 100%, is that still being put out?
What's the fear? What's driving that?
That I'm harming, that I'm just creating more harm.
So there's some judgment and shame going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like when you mentioned, as far as the punishment side, as far as that, you're still in an addiction with that's still pretty huge for me. So I'm finding a whole new layer of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely on that punishment style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you continue along that, somewhere in there, something will get sorted out.
Okay.
I hope. Yeah. And that's the pieces I'm still sorting out to figure out at what point am I no longer projecting harm to my environment? Or at what point do I need to get to the repentance? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know at what point you start sinning at this point. Byrne?
My question is similar to Jill's. It may actually be the same. Is when do you know that the law of attraction has changed?
Oh,
Like with my, I know, for example, with my sister, just give an example. When I go to write her an email or I speak with her, even though I feel like I've processed the childhood anger, I recognize that there's a few other times in our lives that that same issue has come up. So I probably need to go and look at it several times.
but you're expecting her behavior to change.
But when I write her an email, I'm aware that I'm aware now that I'm trying to get her to understand everything, and I'm over explaining, or, like I come from a place of not being understood,
Yeah.
even though I feel like I've touched into the childhood fear and anger at the originating point. But so I'm thinking that at some point my law of attraction will change, and that I won't ever be walking around feeling misunderstood. Or will we always have to feel that and be aware that that's there? Like, will it just completely disappear?
I will. So a couple of things there. And did you feel some anger come up there, Byrne? Okay, good. So you still want her to change her behavior.
Ah, okay.
You're no longer engaging in addiction. It's you not harming people. Other people can continue their behavior. So once you really release going, I may be misunderstood for the rest of my life. And I cannot expect to be understood. I cannot expect somebody else to give me the feeling that they understood me. I may be misunderstood for the rest of my life. I mean, look at Jesus. He wasn't one with God. We're still trying to understand what he was trying to say. It's been 2,000 years. We still can't figure it out. So you can continue to be misunderstood. A lot of forward thinkers, a lot of scientists that came up with stuff, misunderstood. 200 years later, you're like, oh, their discovery changed everything. So you gotta release that demand, otherwise you stay in the hurt and anger about it. And you will feel the pain of being misunderstood, and you will process it. You will process it and you will release it. That is what will change. So you're no longer damaging yourself and your environment in the addiction. Well, even if nothing else changes in your environment. But at this point, Byrne, you still want the outcome to change, which is somebody else's behavior. So then the addiction is still strong. So look at that. Okay, thank you. Grace. Oh, you've changed your mind? You good? Okay. Other questions? Comments? These are really good questions. Ask me while it's all fresh. I'm like 36 hours fresh in this stuff right now. This is a good time. And Jill?
Yeah, so in the demanding of hang on. I had the question and it's now just got all jumbled in my head. The demand of your behavior changing.
Mhm.
That will stop as you go into the addiction.
I think, yeah, I think when you hit the depression place where you're going, oh, I can never expect to be understood ever again. I'm going to have to let this go. When you go into that sadness, grief, depression, I think at that time you are letting it go. Yeah, I think that's when it really, that's when you start to realize I will have to give this up. There is no way around it. I think somewhere in there that changes, that demand changes, and then you go into the sadness about it. But again, if you're not willing to feel the fear and process it, you're just going to go into probably a different addiction. To suppress the fear, to comfort the fear. Maybe you just hang out with people that understand you and you just won't have to have it exposed, or maybe you'll find some other emotion to comfort this feeling of my fear is I won't be able to defend myself. I will not be able to speak up. I'll feel helpless and defenseless. That's the fear. So I can find other addiction to comfort those fears. So I may still be in it. Adult anger, the despair of giving it up. Then you get into either fear and then childhood anger and then fear, or you just go straight into childhood anger and then fear. Every step of the way is fear. And Lisa had helped make forms for how to challenge addiction and what the process is like. I'll email it out. And now Lisa has asked, she's saying, you know, it'd be really good to make a map of the process, which for me means, well, Lisa, well, let's work on it. You know what that means? We're gonna have to look at it together. She's really good at extracting and making all these maps. And so, sure, let's try and we can, yeah. Jesus has laid the steps out very clearly. Mary has laid it out. But only as you go through the experience, then their words come back to you. You have to look for your justification. You have to process it emotionally. You have to emotionally experience your addiction. You have all of this was said. Every step of the way, you got to talk to God about it. Like literally, it's not just an idea. You literally got to do it in order to keep the process going. Virginia?
Was it you that said that if you're feeling the pain in your body, that's a sign of fear? Is that what, did you say that?
Denial. Yeah.
So
So
denial or fear, like when you feel it in your body as
yes,
pain.
always some kind of fear. Yes, that's right.
So that's some kind of fear.
Yeah.
For that emotion, feeling that emotion.
Yeah. Any illness, any physical illness, any pain, especially when you have pain, it's an overall denial of all emotions. And then when you have any kind of illness, anything, there is a component of fear to process. And usually by the time I've processed fear, something in my body starts to feel better. And then other stuff, you know, as you keep going through other emotion, then there's like resolution, complete cure. There's always some kind of fear being denied.
Weird, as we've been talking, my right arm and shoulders really started to hurt.
Okay.
So I was like, I think I remember her saying that. I think this
Yeah.
is a fear then. Thank you.
Now, there's another thing about physical pain, because I find some people have like a judgment of like, oh, you must be denying something, you know, what's the matter with you? You're not doing this right, you're feeling pain. I go, no. When you decide, I need to work through this emotion, your body or your soul through your body will now present the opportunity, the opening. Like to me, that is a sign of going, oh, I'm working through something else now. Pain just showed up. This is great. The law of compensation kicks in and you're beginning to have physical symptoms is very helpful. And there are many times when you just physically experiencing the pain will drop you into the emotion. You don't even need to work out a law of attraction and this and that. Just feel the physical pain and you're in. But for me, experiencing physical symptom is a good sign. It's a helpful sign. Byrne?
is it possible, or where I get hung up sometimes is that I don't have the conversation with God a lot in the process. So is it helpful sometimes to say, God, what can I ask you next? How can
Oh,
I
that's
move
brilliant.
forward? And in the process, if you're making a sheet, it would be helpful to have some of the questions. Sometimes I'm like, okay, how to relate to God at this point?
That's brilliant. Yeah, Lisa. Okay, we'll make a list of questions or list of prayer suggestions. So
Thank you.
what was your first comment? Oh, yes. Okay, I don't even know how to talk to God. I
Yeah.
don't even know what to say. Actually, that right there is a conversation. Right there, you can go, God, I don't even know what to say to you. I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know who you are. Supposedly, you can help me. Right now, my prayer to God is to teach me about prayers so that I can learn more about what prayer can I say for myself and others. But I have found actually there have been times when I'm struggling with an issue. See, when you get stuck, wrestle with it. Get in it, get wrestling, get angry, get upset, get anxious, wrestle with it. And as I do that, you're actually opening stuff, you're choosing your desire. And at some point, I feel like something will drop where I'm actually being told, ask God for this, pray this. My guides will literally give me, ask for this. And I go, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, God, can I? Whoa, and here we go. Something's happening. So I think we are being guided to ask or pray for the right thing along the way, or talk to a certain person, or read a certain book, or go for a walk, or go cook something, or yeah. Thank you. But you gotta process your fears. I see some of you like the fear is growing in the room right now. Like, no, process it, experience it. It's okay. It's the easiest thing to do. Lisa, you have a.
Yeah, I had raised my hand a couple times and I didn't know if you were just ignoring it, but
No,
oh, I was doing it, trying to do it through the raise hand section.
not
but
working, eh? Yeah.
I guess it wasn't working. My computer's been weird lately. This goes back to Jill's comment, which was a while back, where Jill, you had mentioned when you're starting to be aware of the addiction and let yourself feel the actual addiction, your fear is that you're going to hurt people. And what I wanted to say is actually, I know for certain you're owning more of the anger and you're hurting them less. It's when we're not aware of the addictions that are coming out at us, out from us, like Mila's addiction with her friend was an anger for those 2 months, but there wasn't even an awareness because there was denial. So it was coming out full force to that friend. But the minute she started to have that little opening of like, wait, maybe she is right. Maybe I am angry at her. Maybe there's something going on here. She starts to turn inwards and then she goes into and has a tantrum, right? Like it probably took you, what, 30 minutes to go through the rage of the child.
Oh, that was after I realized that I'm in an addiction. Once I go, am I angry? I could be angry. And then I could feel her saying, you're not owning your emotion. I go, oh, right. I'm not owning my emotion. Okay, that could be happening here. That was it. Just an intellectual opening. Went to bed, get up the next morning and go, oh, wait a minute. I'm in an addiction. This is the addiction cycle. Oh, so
And
then,
and then you let
I
yourself
looked
start
for
with
the
the anger, right?
Absolutely.
Sorry. Yeah. And in that moment that you were like, okay, I'm pissed off. And you were in the adult anger probably at that point to begin with, like, she should understand me. And you, like you say, Dharm, chase the emotion.
Yeah.
Like in that moment, I bet that friend was feeling way less coming out of you at her. You were owning it. So it hurts people less. That's what the point I wanted to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
By the time we start to feel shitty about what we're doing, we've already stopped. And now we're feeling terrible when everybody else around us are going, oh, finally, something's a lot easier about her. But now you're putting yourself in the doghouse when it's done. The repair has begun. And the repair process, from what I'm learning from going through the Life Elysian book group with some of you here, that repair process is actually a repair process. They're actually saying, oh, good, we can finally help you heal now. Now you're healing. So now you start to go into self-flagellation, wasted, and goes the wrong way. No need. There is no need, as I can feel right now, the answer. There is no need whatsoever of that. The repair process will help to make all of those things and correction happen. There is no need. You will be absolutely helped. You're choosing to say, I got to stop this addiction. Right there, right there. There's a whole process that takes on from that point on. You're going to be helped every step along the way. You're not wanting to stop. You guys have to just wait till more mess happens and you're willing to do something. But even an intellectual awareness that I go, am I angry? Could that be happening? And then the intellectual awareness of, oh, I'm in the addiction. So yeah, obviously there's anger. How can it not be? It's just mathematical. 1 + 1 is 2. I'm angry. Can't feel it, but it must be there. That was enough to get the rest of it opening. Grace?
I just wanted to add to that, like God God already has laws in place for self-punishment. Like he has corrections already in play to punish you. I mean, it's not to punish you, but do you know what I mean? So there's no need to punish yourself because that's already happening through compensation, through a law of attraction, through whatever. So it's, yeah, like Mila said, it's a waste of time to, I mean, I don't mean that flippantly because like I was always in self-judgment and I was, you know, that's kind of where I went to automatically for a very long time. But if you realize that the laws are already, you know, correcting you, like, yeah, there's no need for extra.
And maybe it's worth to build your faith in that. It's worth asking God, can you show me how this works? Can you show me that you've already been correcting me, that I've already earned the penalty, that I'm already discharging it, or that when I'm discharging the penalty, I'll be shown how to do it properly. Can you show me that? Can you show me that this thing I'm doing where I think I'm finally feeling terrible about what I've done is not correct? Show me. There's another one instead of my prayers. Show me. Help me see the difference. And then I start to have faith and then I will engage it quicker. So, and I have fun with this. I'm like, how does that work? Can you show me? I'm having fun. I'm going off on this other side adventure, like all these video games. My kids will say, I finished the game. Okay, now what? Oh, I just go on one of the side adventures. Oh, it's a thing? Okay. So take a side road trip to help you see how that's working. And then you become sensitive to the feeling of what correction feels like and what self-judgment feels like, which is some extra set of sins. Thank you, Grace. Byron.
Would the process be any different for you, Dharm, if your friend was still she wasn't aware and wasn't looking at her part in it?
Yeah, we would be engaged. Like her anger, my anger were locked. I'm quite shocked at how locked I was in this place. Usually the addictions, it takes a long time for me to work through, but I know it's there. I know the feeling, I'm in the process. With this one, I couldn't see it at all. And I would have been locked because my justification, if my being misunderstood have caused me pain, then I am out, whatever. That justification was running the show. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. So in daily life, we may meet people who aren't as aware.
Oh, yeah.
So what process might we have to do differently to
Correct.
to become aware ourselves that we're locked like that and start taking action? So
here's what I've come from this process. What I've learned is for myself is a cue now. If I feel hard done by, if I feel wronged, if I feel hurt, oh, I'm in an addiction. So from this process, I've got a few more treasure points from these video games. You know, you collect strengths. So now I've gained a few more clues that next time I feel I've been hard done by, I've been wronged. Oh boy, I'm in an addiction, better go look for it. That'll be my clue. And once I find it's an addiction, stop arguing with it. I just dropped the whole thing. I just dropped it. Go, no. The only thing to be done here is to get rid of it. Stop engaging. Stop talking to it. Be merciless. Alicia? Oh, you mute.
Just from what Bern said, for me, that whole thing of demanding in so many different ways, I just go to, well, God doesn't demand any of this. So I have to be in addiction or fear or anger or something. I just wanted to mention that. And also I love the way you said, if you don't want to stop something, the guides just step back and let you make a bit more mess. And thirdly, Lisa, I think Lisa wanted to, she couldn't raise her hand on the automatic thing. I saw your hand.
Okay. Thank you. Because I'm looking over here, Alicia, so I can't see what's on the bottom here. Thank you. Lisa, did you have a comment?
Oh, no, it was just a comment to Grace's, how Grace was reasoning with us, you know, that God's laws are already in place to punish or compensate us. So we shouldn't do it for ourselves. And I was kind of like, well, that feels like a mental justification, Grace, of skipping over all the emotions that are in play that causes us to want to self-punish, like how our parents treated us when we made a mistake in life or did something wrong. And all of those emotions are so juicy and in there in us that God wants to get out of us. So that was my comment. Yeah.
So for that, what Grace is doing is she's recognizing the action and saying, I got to stop engaging it. And then if you still feel the feeling, but I really want to, then you can go, oh, here's an addiction. But you got to at least go, like for me today, I went, I want to punish myself. Whoa, no, not going there. I may be skipping a whole bunch of emotions here, but I will not engage that step. You got to stop. And then you'll be able to feel the compulsion. And then, so it's kind of like you're both right. Grace?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it took me a long time to get to a point where I, like, that wasn't the first thing that I went to self-punish and to like attack myself. So yeah, I do recognize, you're absolutely right. It's a process to even get to that point where you can like, oh, hang on a second, I'm doing this to myself again. So yeah, that's a good point.
But Lisa, you like it.
I like what?
Self-punishment.
Oh, self-punishment? I do?
Yeah, I can feel it in you.
Oh, really?
You're arguing for it, yeah. Oh, you trying to get away? It's like, there's a process to talk to God about this.
Interesting. No, because I catch myself pretty quick now. Like if I start going that direction, I go, no, that's an addiction. Okay, what's the emotion I'm avoiding? Drop.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with what you just said, but maybe I'm missing something, Mila.
That's why.
Yeah.
We wanna, when I decided today, like, can't go into that bad place, I could feel the emotions coming up and I go, I'm gonna have to take some side trips here and look at some of these other feelings coming up going, but I'm not satisfied because I haven't done that thing yet. And it's like, oh, okay, something to look at. Yeah, something to examine because I'm not finished. Like, are you sure? Because if I don't punish me, then God's gonna have to. And it's like, oh, there's a justification right there. So I do want to engage a process with God asking, okay, what's your definition of correction? What does that feel like? And how am I not in harmony so I can become sensitive? I think that's worth exploring. So I mean, we're all just guessing here, but that's how we're gonna identify. Because I can feel something in me is not satisfied because I haven't done that shitty thing to myself yet. That's so satisfying when I do it. Lisa?
Yes. Okay. I feel it now. Thank you you often pick up on emotions before I do. Yes, there is something in me that feels like, okay, you bad girl,
Yeah.
punish for a little bit and then you can deconstruct the addiction and go for it. But you're right. I feel like I still do that. And I think it's more grieving about childhood, and also because I got my parents off my back when I did that.
Yep, absolutely.
My mom stopped attacking me. So I've just feel like I need to do that. But yeah, thank you. You pointed that out.
Like you have to convince God, I got it. Can I show you how much I got it, that I've been terrible? It's like, something's off here. But
And
what if
meanwhile, God's just sitting there like, okay, you're wasting the time right now. Come on, get on with it. And you're creating more sin right now. Get on with it.
Like when I felt the repentance briefly, and I felt something in me went in and down, and I go, yeah, I shouldn't deserve that. I get it. It was a very quiet place, and it was a very humble place, but I felt self-respect. There was respect. Like I think the word respect is in there. Somehow the whole thing felt respectful of me and of the other person. And I felt like I also received respect or approval or something. I was like, yeah, that wasn't cool. Okay. So I feel like once you can get into engaging repentance, you do learn quite a few things. But take your time. We have so many pieces to work through, piece by piece by piece. And every time you do, the next time you go in the process, you are just a little bit quicker. But there's no hurry. There's no hurry. Your desire, I do need to stop my addiction. I do want to stop sinning. That desire is already being taken into account. It's being seen as you do have a desire to stop. You can't get to it all in one day or even 5 years, but you do have a desire to, and that is enough. Takes time. Virginia.
I just wanted to bring up, because this keeps coming up here, the part of the process that you were talking about through the addiction and the prayer where you go in when you ask God, and I know I've done this, to let me feel those feelings, take it away from them.
Mhm.
So it's like a repentance.
Yep.
But I also feel that sometimes there can be opportunity there for self-punishment.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't feel like I recognize it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I can easily go into like another addiction there and go into self-punishment and thinking that I'm in repentance.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. So this is what Grace was helping me see last week, that when we go into the first few times we start recognizing addiction, we start feeling really terrible about ourselves. And we think we're processing addictions. Oh, I feel so terrible. I've been this terrible person. And so, okay, I'm figuring out the addiction. Addiction look like the way I'm talking to you now, where you're kind of like not intellectually, emotionally, surgically going for it. You're going, okay, how does this look like? Where is this coming from? What's the emotion? Do I own it? Do I do it? That's you engaging the process of deconstructing. But when you're just in there, I feel terrible, I feel terrible, I feel terrible. And I've seen people who are for years still feeling terrible. And I'm looking at them going, but you're still in the addiction. It's still not being deconstructed. So that's when I start cluing that that's not processing the addiction. That's just in self-punishment. You're not breaking through. But it takes time to work out, like, am I in self-punishment? What does that even feel like? God, what does self-punishment feel like? Why is it not in harmony with you? What does it look like to be in harmony with you? It takes time to sensitize. Yeah. Questions, comments? Is there an addiction you would like to challenge or halfway through challenging? I can send you out the forms that Lisa had made, and then it kind of lets you journal, kind of like an outline for journaling. Yeah. Okay. Lisa?
I just wanted to say that form that both Mila and I made together, I did experiment with doing it
Yeah.
with a pretty big addiction, and I found it really valuable. I just used it as like a notation system and took 2 weeks and, journaled using the forms. So if somebody has a big one that they want to really tackle, I encourage you to give it a try if you feel drawn to.
And hey, it could look like a small one. I just yell at my phone. Oh, what a tiny little thing. You'd be surprised. And I actually had a friend talk to me yesterday. She said, I think I'm going through withdrawal. Can you help me out? Is this withdrawal? And the way she described it, she felt like she was like a drug addict, not getting her fix. And that is what it feels like. It feels just as terrible to go, I no, you gotta, and she was shaking and she was like, what were the other words she used? I have to have this thing. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I feel empty and dry. And you do feel those terrible feelings when you are going through withdrawal. It feels just as terrible. Yeah. But it doesn't last long. And at some point you're going, I've actually not died from any of those withdrawal experiences. I mean, of course, physical addiction like alcohol, when you're going through withdrawal, you need to be in a center. You need to be medically supervised. There's some addictions that physiologically do create. The emotional one are emotionally terrible, but you do survive. And I think the next time you go for it a lot quicker. You develop the emotional capacity to embrace and experience the withdrawals, I think. I'm still figuring it out. Okay, a lot to think about. Everyone's feeling kind of saturated. So we have 3 more. I thought I had 8 set up, but it looks like I have set up 9. So I'm just gonna stick with the 9. It's like, where do I have 9? I wanted 8, but okay, we'll see. So I'll figure out what the outline is for next week. But if you guys want to email me what you would like me to discuss for the next 3 weeks with addictions, let me know, give me some ideas, and then I can develop some talks about it. Okay.